Hi, I'm Amber, and welcome to the Lone Star Keto Podcast. And today we have a special guest with us, Fab Guzzo. And I hope I said that right. Welcome, Fab.
Good to be here, Amber. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And we're going to be discussing a little bit about how there is no such thing as a one-size-fits-all diet. And I think that is so important for people to hear because they're always looking for that perfect diet, but there's really not one. There's not a perfect diet for everyone. Would you agree?
Totally. Just because, you're eating a certain way or you found a diet that may work initially, you might hit a roadblock along the way. You might be eating maybe too much of a certain food group, and that might be slowing you down. So there's all sorts of issues and stuff like that could actually get in the way of, you reaching your goals. So it's so important to adjust kind of on the fly and make sure that you're making, changes as necessary for sure.
I guess I should mention that you are a certified health coach in Canada. I should have said that from the beginning. But can you give us a little bit of your background? Like, how did you get into the health arena and what gives you the passion to do what you're doing?
Well, yeah, always been into health as long as I can remember. I've tried all the diets from, vegan to vegetarian, low carb, keto, and just kind of always searching for that optimal diet, the way that us as humans should be, eating. And when I came across the whole low carb, keto community, I couldn't believe the results from just adapting that lifestyle. And once I found that out, I just felt like I wanted to kind of spread the word to everybody. I went back and became a health coach through Mark Sisson's Primal School. And then I launched my 21-day program online. Been doing that for the last 2 years. And ultimately, when someone comes my way, I'm just with them through the whole process, through the 21 days. A lot of times we buy a meal plan, we buy a book, and we have all this information, and it's difficult to process. And I get it can be difficult. So that's kind of where I come in. I guide you through it. I'm there for, your 21 days daily, adjusting on the fly, making sure that, the person is actually sticking to their goals and finally, reaching them. That's the ultimate goal for me. Is the client, not so much myself and what works for me. It's kind of more what works for them. So that's kind of where I stand. Yeah.
That's awesome. And I think that message gets lost a lot because you see a lot of the fitness gurus and they talk about this one specific way of doing something. And if you veer from that, then, well, you're just not doing it right. And there's so much dogma in the keto and specifically the carnivore community right now that it is the message is getting lost because I don't think it's right to say that everybody is going to do perfectly on this specific diet the way I do it, And what do you feel about the whole dogma?
Yeah, totally. Like you see it all online, and it's kind of, all these health gurus online, preaching it's kind of a one size fits all, and this has to work for you. And I totally see it differently. Everyone's got a different body, they're different gender. They may have some metabolic issues, some other underlying health issues that may affect, losing weight and stuff like that. So it's so important to recognize that we're individuals first, and not just because, the keto or the carnivore diet is the thing that's working now for most people, doesn't mean it's going to work specifically for that person. So yeah.
And also, not only that, is just because a diet is working for you now, it may not work for you tomorrow because guess what? Your body changes. Hello, I can vouch for that one. And you have to adapt and evolve. And I'm assuming that's what you do with your clients as well, because we kind of talked a little bit about that. How do you approach that? Like if somebody came to you and they were having some issues, they can't lose weight, they have some, they're pre-diabetic, they have high blood pressure. What is the first thing you do?
Well, we first, start off on kind of what their goals are, and then we kind of work our way down from that. We start off, obviously, they're going to kind of follow the whole guidelines of the 21 days. But in that, I mean, we work through it. If there's something that they hit that's a roadblock, we tend to see what we can do to get around that. So if there's underlying health issues, or maybe they're consuming too much of one thing, they're overeating nuts, for example, or something that's getting in the way of not allowing them to kind of lose that weight, then we deal with it kind of as it comes up. And the interesting thing is everyone is different, so I don't know what the client is going to encounter along their journey, because everyone's body is different. So that's the most fascinating thing, is I can throw them this meal plan, but everyone's different. So it might not work for that person, and we have to adjust on the fly. Maybe we cut out certain foods and we add others. Maybe it's a hydration issue. Maybe they're not getting enough sleep. Maybe it's a stress concern. So all these other factors that we have to kind of take into consideration when we're looking at someone's, progress.
So you take a pretty holistic kind of approach, it sounds like.
Yes, for sure. And there's also the motivation piece to it, right? Keeping somebody on track. A lot of people will fall kind of victim to the whole emotional eating. They might have a bad day that turns into a bad week. And that's kind of where I come in, where I keep them on track and make sure, okay, you had a bad day. Let's look to tomorrow and get back on track. And I think a lot of people lack that motivation, that discipline. And that's kind of where I come in to keep them on track and to help them, stay on course.
That's awesome. I think that's so important. And because the diet is one piece of the puzzle, a huge piece, but there's so many other pieces. And if you just focus on diet, that's not necessarily fixing what's wrong. So I think that the holistic way is very important. Okay, let's talk a little bit about your 21-day program. Why 21 days and what does it involve?
Well, 21 days, I believe that's a good time frame for someone to, establish a routine, get into a rhythm. Um, my meal plan has foods that you can consume. It has foods that you should be avoiding. It's got recipes in there. It's got 21 days worth of daily meal plan. So right from the minute you get up, drinking your water before breakfast, and then slowly getting into, intermittent fasting and increasing that over the course of 21 days. So there's a lot of different aspects to it. And if someone's following it kind of the way that they should, generally they see a lot of good results after the 21 days, for sure. Yeah.
Interesting. So what is a typical meal plan like? And do you find a lot of success with giving somebody an actual plan? Because, some people, it's hard for them to follow a plan because they don't like certain foods, or, it just doesn't work with their schedule or whatever. So how do you kind of balance that?
And that's the difficult part, is getting someone to come over and say, try this 21-day plan. Once they come over and they actually read it and they get into it, we have flexibility. I can say, if you like just eating salad for lunch, or you like your eggs for breakfast, there's nothing wrong with having the eggs every day for breakfast. So we try to find kind of what they can implement, what's easy for them. And if that's something they like, they can use that, daily if need be. But it is challenging getting somebody to kind of buy into it. But once they are in the confinements of the 21 day, they see that there's a lot of flexibility there, and we can work, to what they like and to what works for them. I think that's important. What's going to work for the client, what's going to be easy. It caters more to parents. I get it. We're all busy, and it's challenging to try to implement these healthy practices when you have, kids and jobs and all the other stuff. So I get it for sure.
Definitely is. Now, do you recommend intermittent fasting at all? Do you add that into any of your plans, or is that kind of an individual thing?
So I generally recommend it, but we usually start off slow. So, 10 to 12 hours initially. And then as the 21 days goes on and they become more fat adapted and metabolically healthy, then we start increasing it, try to go from, dinner to maybe lunch and try to go for that 14 hours by the end of the 21 days. But I definitely don't push it. I always tell them, get your body adapted first and then implement IF kind of down the road when your body's adjusted to kind of burning fat versus carbohydrates, because about the whole keto flu and all that stuff that everybody goes through. So it's get through that first and then let's worry about the IF.
Yeah. Okay, I actually was talking to one of my clients today, and one of her issues is that when things start to go wrong, like during the transitional period, and you feel like crap, like say the keto flu, carb withdrawal, whatever you want to call it, and then you have this attitude like, no, this is terrible. I can't keep doing this. How do you help your clients get through that transitional period?
And yeah, and that's a challenging part because that's where you could lose a lot of clients. So, in that time frame, I'm very supportive. I tell them, stay hydrated, add the salt to your water, trust the process, implement certain foods that will get you through that. And I tell them once you get through it, I mean, you know what it's like once you get fat adapted and you can go 14, 16 hours without eating. I mean, that's something that's very, very useful. So I think once they understand that there's light past that initial stages, I think they buy
That's
into
what I was waiting for. That's what I wanted to hear. Because I do think that is an issue, is because when you're in the midst of this, you're thinking there is no end in sight. That this is horrible. It's just going to keep getting worse and worse and worse. And I can't just live like this. But if they know it's just this temporary thing, and if they can just fight through it for just a little bit, there's like this amazing thing that happens. And I think for most of us, once you experience it for the first time, it is that amazing thing. And, so I love that you said that.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Okay, so you also have a guide. Talk a little bit about that. What's in that guide and what is the name of it?
I have you mean the 7-day quick fix guide I have? Yeah. So it's
Yes.
basically, it's a guide that you can utilize, for life. It's a template that lays out a day. I have foods that you can utilize throughout the day. So foods that I suggest for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And it's very simplistic. You pick a protein, you pick a vegetable, you pick a fat pretty much for each meal. And you plug that into each breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and you have a full day worth of eating. And it's a simplistic, template for someone who doesn't want to go through the whole 21-day fix. They want something that they can just kind of have on their phone, look at and say, oh, okay, I can do this for breakfast, this for lunch, and this for dinner, and be on my way. They don't need that additional kind of coaching or that extra recipe in the back of the book. So it's more of a template, something that you can use for life for sure.
Oh, okay. That's kind of cool, because there are some people who just don't want all the frills. They just want to just jump in, just tell me what to do, bam, done. But sometimes I find that can be troublesome for some clients who they come to you and they want you to do everything. Like, just tell me what to do. Tell me exactly what to eat, when to eat it, etc. And to me, that is not necessarily a good thing. Like, what do you tell those clients that are just expecting you to do everything for them?
Yeah, I mean, that's difficult, right? I mean, it has to be them wanting to kind of buy in as well. I mean, there's only so much I can do kind of from my end. So I just try to flip it back on them and I say, what is it that you want from this process? I mean, you have to work, just as hard, and the harder you work, the harder I'll work for you. And together we could break through hurdles, right? So I think it's just getting them to understand and to buy in that it's going to be a commitment. It's going to be work. Anything that, is going to show results and needs that hard work and that dedication. So I think that's where the whole motivation piece comes in, and encouraging them to kind of stay on track and realize that it's going to take work. Like, let's face it, right? But that's where the partnership is so important.
Yeah, for sure. It does get a little bit, frustrating though, because you're like, this is your health. And I guess for me, there was a long time where I didn't care about the health thing. To me, that was like what you worry about when you're old. I was worried about how I looked. I want the weight off. I didn't care about the health stuff. And so once you realize how important health is, you can't unsee it. You
Yeah.
can't unfeel it. And you're like, people, you don't understand. This is the important thing. So what do you see with your clients? Do they come to you because they want to lose weight? Or is it more of I need to, work on my I'm pre-diabetic and I need to lower my glucose. Help me with that. Or what do you see the most often, and how do you deal with
It's interesting you mentioned that. Most people come to me to lose weight,
that?
right? And I
Yeah.
always ask them, I say, the most important thing is gaining energy, living a long, healthy life, right? So they'll go through the plan, and sometimes they've lost 5 pounds. And to them, it's like, well, that's not a lot. I said, well, how do you feel? And they feel great. I say, well, that's the start. You feel good. Even though it was just 5 pounds, I go, it's just the start of your health journey. You've just gotten something that you can implement for the rest of your life. You've gotten your health back. I said, that's far more important than any number on a scale. And that's how I kind of get around that whole message of, I want to lose 20 pounds in 21 days. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so hard now because I get that they want to lose weight. I do. And that's a good goal. It is. But that's not the only thing. And, like you always hear, it's get healthy to lose weight, not lose weight to get healthy. So if you give your body what it needs and you're doing what you should be doing for your body, it'll work for you instead of against you. And weight loss becomes a little bit easier. It may take a while. And that's what people don't have is patience. Is that what you notice a lot of?
Oh, totally. Right. Like 21 days is not long. And if you
No.
lose a few pounds, but you built this health template that you can utilize for the rest of your life, that is far more important than any number on the scale. And I think that's a message that I try to drive across to my clients is it's long game, right? It's long term. It's going to take time. So be patient. And if it comes off the right way, we want it to come off that way so it stays off and doesn't come back on. I think that's the most important issue as well.
Absolutely. I just wish more people would focus on health. Now that I'm on the other side, I get it. But I was one of those people. I don't want to hear about that. I just want to lose weight, the fastest way possible, even if I have to starve myself, whatever it is. But it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. I mean, you're just on this vicious cycle. So it makes no sense. Okay. So you have tried just about the whole range of diets you could possibly try, from vegan to pretty close to carnivore. I want to hear a little bit of, like, when you were vegan, vegetarian, whichever one you want to talk about. What was it like for you, and why did you not stick with it?
Well, first of all, I mean, I wanted to try kind of every diet. If I'm in this space, I want to be able to, kind of understand every diet and what the body goes through. So that's why I kind of tried the whole vegan diet. When I was going through it, I did feel a lot of bloating, uh, gassier than normal. Um, and I never really felt satiated, if that kind of makes sense. I always felt like
Mhm.
my body was lacking, um, maybe minerals, vitamins, stuff that I wasn't getting because I wasn't consuming any animal products for the most part. So I mean, that was the challenging part, and that's what I felt. And then, once you switch over, to keto, kind of carnivore, you feel a resurgence of energy, right? And you feel kind of alive again. So that's kind of how I felt when I was on the vegan diet, for sure.
Yeah. So if a client came to you and they're like, I really want to, try a vegan diet. What do you say? What do you do? Do you say, okay, let me figure it out? Or do you try to kind of tell them, animal protein would be kind of good for you? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, I've had that question before, and that's a difficult one based on where I'm coming from. But I believe there's a healthy way to do any diet. I mean, you could be a healthy vegan. I mean, you're probably going to have to supplement
Mhm.
and be very smart with what you're eating. But I think there is a definite way to do the vegan diet the right way. If someone came to me and they wanted to go completely vegan, um, it have to be something I would have to really consider, because my 21 day is kind of modeled more towards the whole low carb kind of keto carnivore approach. But if they, persisted, it was something that we could definitely work through if we had to, for sure.
So I take it you haven't had that, like somebody really be serious about it?
I've had the question asked,
Just the
and we
question.
didn't actually go through with the
Okay.
plan. But that's kind of the answer I gave him. I said, I kind of wanted to be honest with them. I mean, this is where I'm coming from, and it's not fair to
Mhm.
you to start coming up with something that I'm not really doing right now at the current moment. I didn't want to mislead them or yeah, give them any plan I didn't really have. So sometimes it has to be them just kind of walking away, and that's kind of how it goes. Yeah, unfortunately, from that
Mhm.
perspective. Yeah.
Okay, so what are some other things that you tried? What other diets, like obviously you probably did the standard American diet, who hasn't, right? And what was the difference when you did that versus when you tried these other ones?
Standard, American diet. I mean, that's the typical, higher carb. I tried the bodybuilding diet, eating, 6 meals a day, trying to eat it, every 2 3 hours. And looking back now, is just, I don't know how I put that much food in my body. But I mean, at the time I thought it was healthy. I thought it was the right thing to do. Now, fast forward almost 10 years, I mean, I can get away with, two bigger meals a day and feel completely satiated with all kinds of energy. So it's just amazing how the body can adapt once you give it kind of the proper nutrients and eat the way that we're kind of designed to be eating. Yeah.
So, okay, your philosophy is there's not a one size fits all diet. But what are some things that are just a no-go, period, no matter what diet you choose to do? What are some very specific things that you just do not believe anybody should be consuming?
I mean, if you look at my page, I mean, there's a couple of things I say to avoid if you don't do anything at all, and that's your sugars, your vegetable oils, the unnecessary grains and carbs and stuff like that. I think if we can kind of cut those out, and focus on more whole foods, I think right then and there you're ready ahead of the game and well on your way to just improving your health for sure.
Yeah. And when you say carbs, you're talking about processed carbs. Is
You
that
got
what?
it.
Yeah.
You
So
got it.
you're not against carbs, like, obviously your whole foods like fruits and vegetables. And what is your take on fruits? Like, what do you think about that?
I mean, I'm a huge advocate. I like my low glycemic, my berries. At the end of the night, I don't mind having some berries here and there to replenish my glycogen. I try to stay away from excess amounts of fruits, like apples and bananas and stuff like that. But I do enjoy, tubers from time to time. I do like the occasional sweet potato and my carrots and stuff like that. So I do mix that in here and there, but I don't overdo it with the fruit or the pastas or anything like that. I kind of stay away from all those unnecessary grains.
Yeah, grains. You still see so much of that, the healthy grains, and people just not believing that you can be healthy without grains. And I actually had somebody comment to me, they were getting just all kinds of upset and how dumb I was and that I didn't know what I was talking about, and that grains, that our ancestors, survived on grains and all this kind of thing. But, my response is, yeah, the body is amazing and it can adapt to various things when it has to, but it doesn't necessarily mean that's optimal. So, we could be in a lot better place if we maybe never ever started the grain to begin with. Our brains might be bigger. We might be a lot healthier. We may not have the diabetes, the heart disease and all that. Who's to say?
Totally.
What is your opinion on that? If somebody told you, I can't give up my grains. I really need my bread and my pasta and my rice and my quinoa and my whatever else, that corn.
Yeah, I mean, just like you mentioned earlier, I mean, this stuff has only been around for thousands of years. I mean, if you go back millions of years, I mean, we've evolved, by eating meat, basically. That's kind of how we came to existence as humans, right? So, I mean, there's a reason why we feed, grains and corn to livestock to fatten them up, right? So, I don't know why we're consuming it at this alarming rate. I mean, if somebody came to me and said they needed, their pasta, I would say, well, there's alternatives to that. You can, implement certain foods to mimic that and still be kind of healthier for the body. So yeah.
So what is your philosophy as far as, like, say somebody has a sweet tooth, okay? And they are having a hard time giving up the sweets, but there is such a thing as keto swaps, right? I have some recipes on my website still, I admit it, and I consumed them. I no longer do, but I did. Is that something you think is a good thing to use as a bridge to, like, try to move you from the sugar addiction, and even though you're still continually putting the sweet in your mouth? Have you used that with your clients? Have you noticed, one way or another, if that's good, bad?
I mean, when you first come over to the low carb, way of eating, I think it's difficult to transition somebody, right from eating 300 grams of carbs a day to go completely cold turkey to carnivore, where you're, consuming next to nothing in the form of carbohydrates. So I think it's got to be a gradual decline into that. I mean, let's face it, some people never get to that. But I think to utilize, keto sweets and the occasional dark chocolate as a crutch in the beginning to kind of get metabolically healthy, I think that's very important. I think we overlook that a lot. I mean, most people will struggle with that in the beginning. So I think it's a good idea. I mean, we don't want to get too comfortable with it. We don't want to be consuming it daily and in excess, because that could lead to more weight gain. But I think in moderation in the beginning is important for that bridging effect. Yes.
Yeah, I'm one of those that I like to gradually do something, like the whole rip the Band-Aid thing off. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that at all. Or plunging into cold water. Nah, not a fan. So I tend to believe more in that philosophy and that approach. But there are some people who do really well and they have to do that. They just have to jump in and not do the gradual thing. Otherwise, they'll never get there. So, it kind of depends, but I like the gradual way personally. Yeah. So, all right, let me see. What am I missing? How do you keep your clients on track?
It's a good question. So basically what I do is, I keep in contact with them daily. So I'm sure a lot of people listening right now have bought meal plans, and you buy it, you get it, you get all this information, and then you don't hear anything from anybody, and you're kind of on your own. It's a little bit intimidating. So I walk them through the entire process. So right from the beginning, we set out their goals. I make sure they, do all the necessary shopping, get rid of all the bad stuff in the cupboard. I make sure that they, pick a day, I tell them, okay, pick that day. That's day one. That's the day we're going to start. When that day one starts, I'm with them pretty much every day from that day one right until day 21. And it's daily. It's communication over Instagram or whatever social app they want to do. What's for dinner tonight? How you doing? Getting to know them, what their daily habits are, where they cheated. So just that daily interaction is so important. We often in the health world kind of forget that there's a person there, and they deal with all kinds of stuff daily. So yeah, daily checkups. I'm always there for questions. I have passion for it. So the questions to me are fantastic because that's how I learn. I'm learning with them as they go along. So that's how I keep them kind of on track.
It sounds like you're really good about keeping them accountable, because I think there's so much to having somebody there, somebody you can talk to, and somebody that's kind of checking up on you. So it makes you a little bit more aware of what you're doing during the day, because you know you're going to have to talk to somebody. And so I do think that is very important. And that's a lot of work, a daily thing. I mean, that's really good that you're there for them like that. Is it like a check-in thing, or like do you contact them yourself, or did you just wait till they ask you questions? Is there a certain time that you get with your clients? Like how does that work?
Yeah. So initially we have a startup kind of conversation before the plan begins. And then as the plan goes on, I ask them, I say, how do you want to communicate? If they tell me it's via Instagram, I say, okay, I'll be on you. So, day one starts, and in the morning, I'm how's it going? Good morning. Is prep ready? What do you have on tap for today? And we go from there. So it's just daily check-ins. And any questions they have, they can get a hold of me. I try to respond within 24 hours. Because I'm always by my phone, so I can be available to them, and I think they appreciate that when it's all said and done, for sure.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. I mean, that's a lot of work. So the fact that you do that really says that you're serious about what you do and that you actually really care, because that is a lot of work. Because I think you are right. A lot of people, they just put out these guides or whatever, and then here you go. Okay, you can ask me a question or whatever, but then they're just left. And a lot of people honestly have no clue how to start, or they have zero support, just zero support.
Yeah.
So what if somebody came to you and they said, I cannot get over my sugar cravings. I just can't. It is driving me nuts. I start out, I'm doing really good, and then I just give in and I eat a piece of cake.
I mean, I tell them if it's a one-off, I tell them to kind of put it behind them to move on from that and to look to the next day. If it's something that's happening on a daily basis, I say, okay, what is something that you can replace that with? For me, it was dark chocolate initially. So if we can start with like an 80% dark chocolate and maybe throw a couple squares in there, and that might get kind of rid of that sweet tooth, or maybe some strawberries, something like that they can implement to kind of wash away those cravings. But it can be difficult because I know the sugar cravings are crazy. So I just try to, implement something that will get them off of that fix.
Do you ever like kind of work on the emotional and psychological part? I know, like for me, even that was a huge component too. And actually, a lot of my clients, that is probably the number one thing I deal with.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, we have so much information that's available to us, yet we're failing kind of at all turns. And I think it has a lot to do with emotional eating, and the stress. And if you look at the current situation right now, I mean, people have been
Yes.
turning to all kinds of
Yeah.
wrong,
Mhm.
and it's a big issue, for sure. And that's a difficult thing to deal with. And my clients do go through that a lot. And that's why I try to encourage the whole, positivity, and it's amazing once you start something right and you start doing it. It's amazing how it turns into a kind of a snowball effect, and it starts to take over, and you start doing all the positive things, right? And that's kind of what I hope for. And I see a bit of that change in my clients as they get motivated and they get encouraged and they start seeing results and they feel better and they look better. it almost is as a snowball effect. So that's kind of how I deal with that. But it is there. It's prevalent. I mean, emotional eating is a definite, real big issue right now.
Yeah, it's huge. And stress is so huge right now. What suggestions do you give your clients with dealing with stress? How can they do something to relieve that?
I always tell them to look at their overall, picture, their lifestyle. Are they overworking themselves? I mean, are they taking walks, at some point in the day? Are they meditating? Can they meditate? What is their sleep like? If you're eating healthier, then your stress levels will drop naturally because your body is, in a better place. So all these things kind of help with that, for sure.
So, with everything you see out there as far as nutrition advice, even from like say the ADA and places like that, the nutrition guidelines, what really gets you? Like what upsets you that you keep seeing that people are continually buying into?
Yeah, this
Yeah.
this I mean, going back, when I lost all the weight, I remember going to my doctor at the time, and she's like, "Well, you lost, almost 30 pounds," and she was asking me, she said, "Do you have an eating disorder?" And I looked at her and I said, "No, I just kind of changed the way that I've been eating." And she looked at me and she handed me this old kind of food pyramid that must have been maybe 20 years old, and it included the typical, kind of standard, North American diet, so to speak. And I took it and I said, "Thank you very much." And I kind of walked out. So, I mean, if we can change a few people's kind of minds and help people and get them to realize that if they're actually living this and they're seeing the weight come off, they're seeing the results, maybe people will start believing and buying into this.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing that gets me is that everything in moderation, eat less, move more. I can't think of too much advice that's any worse than that. Because gee, if it was that simple, why do we have the epidemic of obesity and chronic diseases that we have? If it was just so easy, oh, moderation is very difficult when you're addicted to the carbs that they designed to make you addicted. And then they blame you for the addiction and that you're too weak and you can't stop it. And but yet, moderation, you should be able to eat anything. So that's to me like telling an alcoholic, oh, well, you can have in moderation some alcohol. An addiction is an addiction.
Yeah.
What is your view on the whole moderation thing?
I mean, yeah, I've tried the whole calorie counting and, minimizing calories in and all that stuff. And that didn't go over well. I mean, I can't sit there with the lifestyle I lead and the family I have and all the stuff I'm doing and count my calories. Right. So, I mean, if you're eating the right foods, the right animal products, I mean, you're going to be full. Like, I mean, give your body what it needs and you're not going to overeat anything, right? You're going to be satiated. You're going to get all the nutrients and you're not going to have to worry about, calorie counting and stuff like that, for sure.
Yeah, I'll just make one little note on that. There are some people who it doesn't matter what it is, they can still binge on it because they have a disorder. But and some people can actually bypass that normal body signal. And even though I had eating disorders and I was a binge eater, I physically cannot overeat meat. Can't do it. I tried, can't do it. But there are those that do. So I have to mention that, otherwise I'm going to get comments. So for sure. So the move more and eat less. What do you think about that one?
Yeah, I don't really recommend that. I mean, I always tell my clients for the first 21 days when you're adapting, I mean, take it easy physically, wait for your body to adapt. And then once you're adapted to kind of the whole low carb, higher fat movement, I mean, then you can start incorporating some more exercises and stuff like that. But I wouldn't recommend, I mean, to starve yourself and move more. I don't know if that has any benefit to that in the long run. I don't know if that's sustainable. Yeah.
Yeah, I can tell you it's not, because I got to a point where I was eating 800 calories and I was exercising up to 5 hours a day, 6 days a week. And if I didn't do that, I would start to gain weight. That's how bad I messed up my body. So I'm speaking from experience when I say that's a bunch of crap. And that just sets me off when I see that, because I'm like, and especially like on TikTok and those kind of platforms where you have the people telling you that you can eat whatever you want. You just have to moderate it. You just have to not eat as much of it. And it's like, okay, yeah, you're 20 years old and you haven't figured it out yet. Okay. Or sometimes I look at it as it's like an excuse to be able to include what you really want. Because soon as you say something like that, oh, you can have whatever you want in moderation, like Weight Watchers. You just have to watch your points or watch your calories. But if it fits in there, or if it fits your macros, right? But then you realize that is just not going to be working in the long run at all. Okay, let's see here. Oh yeah. Do you advocate for supplements? And if so, which ones and why?
I mean, I started off in the whole health space, and I had, countless amounts of pills in my cupboard, the omega-3s and the vitamin Ds and the protein powders, and I've tried everything. And now I have a kind of more of a natural look on it. I mean, I take collagen. I add that to my coffee. The only supplement I take right now would be a beef liver. I try to eat it, but I just don't like the taste. So that's the one thing right now I supplement with, and that's pretty much it. I just simplistic, simple.
Yeah. See, this is where I have a little bit of an issue with any diet that requires supplementation. For instance, the vegan diet. That's where I have a problem with it. I mean, if that's what you want to do, fine. But in order to supplement something so important like B12, oh my goodness, that is huge. That's not just like, well, you may be a little bit low on something. No, that's like major. And that's where a lot of vegans get into trouble and they can't sustain it, because your body has to have that. So if you're having to take something completely fake for that, again, it's a little bit different if you're just literally supplementing for something, supporting something, that's different. But even like for me, carnivore, it's hitting everything. I don't really feel a need. But I will say, and I'm curious about what you think about this, I started taking magnesium. And the reason why is I've talked to a lot of people who have seen huge improvements with magnesium, because our soil is deplete, which causes even the animals that eat the grass that grows from the soil, to be possibly deplete. So even a carnivore could be deplete in magnesium. And magnesium has, I think it's like over 700 functions in the body, more than any other nutrient or vitamin, mineral. And that's huge. So what do you think about magnesium?
I've actually experimented with that. I used to spray on a topical spray at night before bed. Mm-hmm. And I did find that it helped me sleep a little better. I did feel had a little more energy. So I have used that for sure. I like to add the pink salt to the water and stuff like that to get the minerals and stuff like that. But I think magnesium does have its place for sure.
Yeah, I'm real resistant to those kind of things. And especially like, I'm like, if I'm doing carnivore and I'm supposed to be eating all this nutrient dense food, why the heck would I need a supplement? But after finding out so much background on that, I'm like, I'm going to take magnesium. So that's the supplement I take. But I will say that I'm with you on the whole liver thing. What have you tried with the liver?
I mean, I try to utilize it weekly by cooking it and stuff like that. I just kind of grew tired of the texture and the taste. Yeah. So I just supplement with a supplement that I get on on Amazon. Code Age, I believe, is the name of the supplement, and I just utilize that daily, and that seems to help. I feel like I get more energy from it. So yeah.
Yeah, I tried liver. I tried different types of liver. I tried it cooked different ways. I even ate it raw. And I even did the frozen thing where you swallow it like pills. Okay. I'm just going to tell you, raw liver was the least offensive as far as taste goes, but the most offensive as far as texture goes. Not that any of the textures were good. And I'm not really even that big of a texture person where I can't eat certain foods because of that. But to me, I found liver just not doable. And so I take the supplements. Well, actually, somebody sent them to me to try. And so a company. So I decided to try those. And I wasn't really ever feeling like I was lacking anything, so I can't really tell a difference. But I figure liver is so good for you, and if I can take it this way, what the heck, I'll try it just to see what happens. But yeah, it's way easier than having to deal with liver. Ugh. I give it to my dogs though. I will give liver, and they seem to really like it. They don't care about the texture or the taste. So, what about like sardines? Do you have any issue eating that fishy stuff?
No, I mean, I like sardines, smoked salmon, all kinds of, trout. Try to go for wild, of course, where I can find it, but no problem at all. I do like fish, so yeah, that's there for sure.
Yeah, I'm not big on fishy stuff either. I can eat salmon if it's fresh and it's the wild caught, and it better not have the skin on it. Nope, nope, not the skin. That's fishy to me. And the people, they're all like, "You need to have sardines. They're so good for you." And I'm like, I would rather eat a box or a shoe or something because they're so vile. Yeah, I did some videos where I try different foods. I called it like facing my fears kind of thing because I was very picky about stuff like that. And I tried all kinds of different organs. The one thing I haven't tried is brains. Have you ever tried brains?
No, but I am starting to get into the whole Paul Saladino and the beef organs, and I do want to give it a try. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
I haven't tried brains and I haven't tried kidneys. But to be honest, I haven't found either of those. Pretty much everything else I think I've tried, but that I haven't. And in the past, I've tried like, the beef tongue and stuff like that. So even though I didn't try it recently, I have tried it in the past, but not kidney or brains. But I don't know, brains, I don't know. I don't know though. Kidneys too, because I hear that's a very strong taste. So I don't know about that one. But so do you try to get your clients to eat organ meats? Do you feel that that is something very important, like what Paul Saladino talks about? Is that something you think people should add in? Is that like a
Yeah, I do believe it's got its place. I think initially people are just kind of getting used to, eating whole foods again and the whole, keto kind of way of eating. So I try to, in time, I guess, as I get more comfortable with the way of eating, to tell them it's not a bad idea to start incorporating some organs and especially liver. If you can't stomach it, I mean, try at least to get some sort of supplementation. But I do encourage it. A lot of my clients don't initially like to take to it, but in time, I do tell them, okay, now start trying some of the organs and stuff like that. So yeah,
yeah, try to squeeze that in there.
yeah,
I'm just gonna go with Sean Baker where he says, eh.
yeah,
For the if you're eating enough of quality good meat based foods, then you should be good. I'm just going to go with that because I really have tried. I have tried. But the liver capsules, I can do that. It's
yeah,
just I don't know how many you have to take, but like I think most of the supplements are like 6 capsules.
yes,
That's a lot.
that's a
That's
lot.
a lot. I don't like taking pills. That's the one downside. That's the only negative. But there's too many other positives, like you don't have to taste it. That's a huge one. So I'm pretty much willing to take the 6 if I feel that it's, that necessary. Okay. Why do you think most people fall a little short when they're with their meal plans? Why do you think people have some issues with that?
I think ultimately it comes down to them staying the course. I think it becomes a bit of a daunting task initially for them when they're first starting off and they're trying to kind of get out of the whole typical standard North American diet way of eating, and they try to adapt to the keto kind of way. I think they get discouraged. I think there's not a lot of direction that they're getting, not a lot of encouragement or motivation. So I think that's where the coaching plays a huge role in that. There's so much information out there. I mean, anyone can go online and get any information on keto and get a 21-day plan, just for free online. But yet we're failing at all, corners and turns. And I think a lot of it has to do with staying the course, the motivation, the person believing that they can actually do it. And that's where kind of I come in and the sport comes in and all that fun stuff.
For sure. So do you work with your clients at all, like on fitness? Like, do you coach them on any kind of physical activity, or do you focus more on the diet and the other lifestyle parts like sleep and those kind of stress?
I do focus more predominantly on the whole diet aspect, but I do encourage, moving throughout the day. I mean, I only do a 15-minute workout daily, and for most people, that's all you really need. I mean, in your house, you can do some push-ups and squats and chin up bar, and away you go for 15 minutes, and you got a pretty good body workout. So, I mean, I'm catering this to the average kind of busy person who doesn't have time to go to the gym for an hour, and they can do it right from their home. And as long as your diet is dialed in and you have the right things in place, and you're doing minimal workouts, you can be pretty healthy.
Yeah. I just, well, my husband and I, we kind of started the X3 bar. Have you heard of that?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where they use the bands, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not digging it. Not digging it yet. I don't know. I'm kind of being a baby about it, because it's like I've been terrible about being active, and that's like one of the things that I'm lacking. I need to work on my stress management and activity for sure. But like I said, I used to be obsessive, and I had a disorder to where I was exercising like every minute of the day. It was ridiculous. And I was going to 4 different gyms, and, it was bad. Anyway, so now I'm like on the complete opposite. And so I'm trying, I thought, okay, this sounds like something that would be easy enough. I can do it in my bathroom, and, just before getting in the bathtub or whatever, I could just do this. And it's only like 10 or 15 minutes, right? I don't like it. I don't like it. It's just like, eh. So I'm being a baby about that. Let's see. Okay, so we are coming up on time. Do you have any advice or anything you want to tell somebody who is just kind of starting out and wanting to get their health back on track?
I just want to say, trust the process. Anyone can do it if they put their mind to it, and just believe in yourself, and be patient. And I think and kind. Be kind to yourself. A lot of people are so quick to turn on themselves. It's amazing how people get so down on themselves. I don't know if it's the social media aspect to it, where they see all these models walking around and whatnot. But just be kind to yourself. You're allowed to make a mistake. And this is a long-term game. It's not short-term, right? So yeah, enjoy the process.
That is perfect. Well, thank you so much for being on, Fab. It was great getting to know you a little bit. And I love your coaching approach. I think it's pretty much what I do. So I really like that. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Amber.
And hey, while y'all are here, subscribe to the channel and go follow Fab. I'll have all his information below. He sounds like a wonderful coach and somebody that would give you a whole lot of help and support. And support is so important, y'all. So give him a follow and check him out. And thanks again. Bye, Fab.
Thank you, Amber.